Hey YouTube, how's it going? Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to be here and to talk about a new MLM network marketing coach today named Tim Sales. Has anyone been watching the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs? I was watching Vegas versus Dallas, and one of the fans had free Jamie on a sign. And if you I think it was the last stream I talked about this. Jamie Benn cross checked the captain of Las Vegas in the freaking neck when he was down on the ice, and he got a 5 minute major, Jamie Benn, and got suspended for 2 games. And I just laughed when I saw that Dallas fan with free Jamie because it's like, oh no, you can't just go around like cross checking necks. You can't cross check necks without like having some consequences. I just thought that was funny. It's like, no, if you cross check a neck, you should get in trouble for cross checking said neck. You know what I mean? Jenny said, "Woo, I'll be here." Awesome. If you're here, hi, Jenny. Thank you for coming. Oh, left a little heart. Hi, oh, thank you for being here. Can't wait for the stream. Excited to not be late for once in my life. Hi, DC. I don't know if you're here, but thank you for dropping in. If you were going to drop in later, I really appreciate that. Woo, almost 400 subs. That is fantastic. I love your unique content. So I'm glad your channel is growing. Thank you. That is so nice. Very surprising. I didn't expect to get 10 subscribers. Literally. When I got 10, I was like, "Ooh, how fun." And so yeah, it's very cool that people actually want to listen to me ramble on the internet. It's almost doggo playtime, so I will be lurking. My hubby and I are excited. Oh, awesome. That's so nice. Hi, Live Panic. Hi, Heather. Just a few more subscribers and you'll be at 400. Woo. Thank you. Hi, Amanda. Hi, ladies online. Thank you for being here. Hi, Gary. Monica. Hi, Monica. How's it going? And then, yeah, Monica's just waving. Ove. Oh, DC's here, yeah. I couldn't watch all of DC's and Amy's and Amber's stream on Beachbody lawsuits because I had to go into a meeting that I was like taking notes for. But I'm gonna rewatch it later this weekend and watch the whole thing. I'm really excited to finish watching that. Oh, you're crocheting, nice. Heather, you say you played hockey. Have you ever sticked? What do you mean sticked? Probably. I was a little bit of a dick when I was playing hockey as a kid and young adult. I was definitely a dick. I definitely did some can openers in my time, definitely some cross checks, but I didn't get a lot of penalties for some reason. You know, like they wouldn't give me penalties, but I was definitely a little asshole. Oh, thank you, DC. That's so nice. Hi, Anne Marie. Thank you for being here. Already 9 friends in the chat. That's so fun. Thank you for being here, everybody. Okay, cool. So I'm doing a stream on Tim Sales today. I've heard Ray Higdon talk about how much he just loves Tim Sales. I've never talked about Tim before. I don't know why I haven't, but I'm really excited for us to do a stream on how to convince your spouse to come on board in your network marketing company. And I was practicing earlier, and of course, my internet connection was trash again, but we're going to try. I like to have my face on the screen. We're going to try to leave my face on the screen, but I might need to like block off, like turn off my camera when I'm not talking just so the video plays better. And let me know if the video like connect if the connection is bad, and if you just like want me to have my like face off the screen when I'm not talking, just like let me know how that goes. Just notice the title. Not surprised they manipulate anyone's spouse is not exempt. Fudge. Oh, Tim is twisty. Yes, he sure is. Yeah, I prefer to keep my face on, but like I've looked back at some replays when I have my face on, and it's just like so many technical difficulties, so much lagging. And so, yeah, like I noticed my connection is more consistent when it's not on, but we'll see. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. Are we ready, friends? I'm really excited for this. Everything I'm going to say is based on my 9 years experience, 9 years, 9 months experience in a marriage. And I'm just basing it off of our assumptions, mine and my spouse's assumptions of what I think would be like a healthy equal relationship, but I'm naive in the world of marriage. And so if you like think something else, if you think I'm like being naive or something about something I'm saying, like just please like let me know in the chat or like if you're in the replay. I'm never ready. Hey, Natasha, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Lick the stream. Yes, if you'd like to. No pressure, though. Okay, I'm going to start.
Hi, Tim Sells here. In this series of videos, to be with my wife, talking about how to get your spouse on board your network marketing business. All right, this is going to be a lot of fun. One, because you guys get to meet the queen of all my dreams, as I've always called her. And this came up in a Telegram question where somebody says, how do you get your spouse on board your network marketing business? And so because I was successful at having her be a part of the business and very honored to have her part of the business, I wanted to walk through our journey to kind of give you an example, as well as that I've had a lot of experience with others that have not worked out well. So I'm going to walk through all of these and we're just going to have a whole lot of fun. So
first, we're being told how to get our spouse on board in our MLM. And I'm just thinking about, so in any of the jobs I've had, I've never been taught how to get my spouse, my partner, to agree with the job I have. I feel like a video like this should be a red flag. I think I would question, why would my spouse disagree with my job? Why would they be worried? And then that might make me like go and do my own research. So I feel like it's already not a good start. Also, you will hear some weird sound issues like static. That's not on me. That's actually on Tim. And you'll see he appears to have like a kind of professional setup, but then you'll hear some weird sound things. I just think that's interesting. Like, this might be a green screen. Like, I doubt he has an actual studio in his house like this. But if you appear to have such a professional setup, I just wonder why you can't have professional sound. When they say retire your husband, what if he enjoyed his career or job and does not want to quit? What then? Totally. How to get a divorce because of your MLM, right, Natasha? Lick the stream. Yeah, I already noticed my connection sucks, but I want to keep my face on, so we'll see how far I can last. MLM can lead to divorce. It has happened. Yes. Yes. And we're going to hear more twisty things, as DC says. Getting the spouse on board is probably among the most crucial items for a successful launch of an MLM. It's extra labor, yep, and also less criticism or guff, as the case may be. Yeah, we're going to hear all about that. That's a great point, Gary.
Probably the tier or the top level of the way that you look at this would be that I have there is that you have the Laura, and you have pendant. We are individuals. We each have on goals, the things that we want to achieve in life. All right. And then up above that is this us entity. And that is the marriage. That is the where we have goals within that. Okay. So the us has.
So that's pretty reasonable so far. It's not anything that any of us could disagree with. Like spouse one has their goals, like things that are important to them. Spouse two has their goals, and then you have goals like that you might have as a couple. Like I think in like my case, like my goals was like have fun talking about pyramid schemes on the internet, exercise, read books. And then like my spouse's goals, he has his own interests, right? Like he likes video games, he likes to like fix up old bikes, he likes to go on really long bike rides. And then like our goals as a couple could be like, what would our couple goals be? Like when save up money for like the eventual down payment of a house, make sure we're like we can become debt free quickly, like work together to pay off our debt. I think those would be our couple goals. But I think he's phrasing this in the sense that your excuse me, your MLM is like your individual goal, and your spouse is required to support that, to because like your individual goal, as he says in the little diagram, contributes to your couple goals. And I think like that's how he's going to phrase it. But I think there's a big difference between my spouse playing video games with his friends for a few hours one day a week, and then him being concerned about my experiences in an MLM company where I'm losing money and where I'm being mistreated. Like those aren't the same thing, because like one is a fun hobby and the other one is I'm being mistreated and like talked down to. You can do something and not involve your spouse. Only in MLM they think bringing your spouse is absolutely necessary, and it's a positive thing to have individual goals and individual hobbies. It's a good thing to have interests, in my opinion, outside of your marriage or your relationship. That's a really good point.
Goals. I have goals and she has goals, right? So that's the way that in the very, very beginning we structured it, and it has worked out really, really well.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's really important for people to understand that when you are in a marriage, that there's those three separate parts, right? Because you, like you said, you've got your personal goals, the things that you want to achieve for yourself, and your spouse is going to have goals that they want to achieve, maybe on their own. And then when you come together in a marriage, now there's new goals, right? It's the goals of what you guys are going to achieve together. So there's three separate things going on, and you really need to be able to recognize that that's occurring in a marriage so that you can work towards reaching not only your individual goals, what you want for yourself, but so that you can reach the goals that you've set out for your marriage.
So I remember this one time where like Laura wants to go and do yoga or something like that. And she was almost like apologizing or something like that. And I said, no. You go to yoga. I want you to win. Really and truly, I want you to win in her goals. And it was probably kind of a new concept. But
I think there's a big difference between supporting your spouse's hobbies and their interests and ignoring red flags. And so I was trying to think of an example with my spouse when we were chatting about it, and we are like directly were like, oh, well, if you were like selling drugs, I wouldn't support that. And I'm thinking, okay, no, let's think of like a less extreme example that could be related to this. And so I have a fun little YouTube channel where like I don't have a big platform, which is how I like it. And I have like a small supportive community of people who like listening to me, right? But what if like I started getting a lot of like online bullying, and it started to really affect my like mental health. It started to like affect our life together as a couple, right? It was really impacting me at work. And just because it's a hobby that I like, just because it's a hobby, just because it's my interest, doesn't mean that my spouse should not be speaking up and saying, look, I know it's really important for you to do your YouTube. I know this topic is really interesting for you, but I'm starting to wonder why. I'm starting to question if you should be doing this. I'm starting to wonder if the mental health struggles you're going through is worth having your channel. Perhaps it's time for you to take a step back, take a break, and then reevaluate if you want to continue with your channel. I think if you are in an equal, healthy, communicative relationship, I think those kinds of conversations are normal. Another example could be you and your spouse like to go out once a week to have dinner, and you have a couple of beers, right? And then if your spouse starts to perhaps drink a little bit more, maybe they go out several times a week and get really, really drunk, and it's starting to affect their day to day, and you're starting to be worried about them. It's within your right as a supportive spouse to go and say, hey, I know you're having fun with your friends, but I'm starting to worry because of A, B, C. It doesn't mean you're not supportive of their desire to have fun with their friends. It doesn't mean that you're not acknowledging how them having fun with their friends contributes to your overall like couple goals. Does that make sense? Like, as supportive spouses, we're allowed to question, we're allowed to make sure that we're allowed to try to make sure that our spouse is in an environment that's healthy for them. That makes sense. I might be naive because I've only been married for 9 months. I don't really think we need these MLMers to explain marriage to us. And of course, like they're starting with something that's is really reasonable and like straightforward. Like, yes, each spouse has their own goals. And then yes, it's our job. It's part of our job, I would say, to support the other spouse in their goals and their interests. And then we're going to have our own goals as a couple at the top. Like that's not a lot of people are going to just agree with that. And I don't like how they're comparing me supporting my spouse's hobby to play video games with his friends to like you are now required in order to be a good spouse to support your partner in an MLM. Oh, there's a tiny spider. Ah, I got it. I got a spider on live stream. Look at me go. I got it. I'm just killing it right now. Got it. Yeah. Okay. Let's continue. Yes, there are new goals, but you can still keep some individual goals as well. Yes. To win yoga. If I had a spouse that owns a business, I don't need to be involved in that. Yeah, we don't always need to be involved in it, in everything our spouse does, right? Hey, Heather, happy Friday. Hey, Jenny, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And when one person is in an MLM, you're risking your financial goals as a couple if one of you is losing money by being in an MLM. And I think if a decision impacts your financial health as a couple or as a family, then I think you should talk to your spouse. And if your spouse says no to something, maybe don't just like blindly accept it, but like listen to it and have a conversation and maybe do your own research and come up with a plan together. Like figure it out together. Don't just say like, well, I'm going to make you accept it, you know? Yeah. If you're losing money and the MLM is affecting you both, the spouse has the right to comment and voice his concerns. Exactly. Exactly, Monica. $3.99. One more. Yeah, like my like lifetime goal on YouTube is 500, right? And so I definitely think that like it won't take a million years to get to 500, like maybe like another year or something. And it's like that's pretty cool. Like almost 400 people. That's a lot of people, you know? Cool. Okay, let's keep going. Turn my face off.
Same for me. If I want to go shooting guns, well, heck, she'd say, let's go, you know, and so, but anything that I want to do, she supports my goals and I support her goals. And then we have the us entity. And so then that would be family stuff. So going out to dinner, we're going to movies, we're going camping, we're going, you know, to the kids' soccers or jujitsu games or basketball games or whatever it is. So we're doing all of these things. So I just wanted to give you examples of those. Now that you've seen that, I have not ever seen it not work. Okay, so you can kind of tell when there's a struggle in a relationship where it's my goals versus your goals. You got a little.
So some comments here. Oh, really? That's so fun. And I think I hit 200 on live too, because I remember Lift Panic saying, "Hey, you hit 200," and I remember that was really fun, and I was really surprised at that. So it's always fun to hit little YouTube milestones on live. That's awesome. Thank you for telling me, Lift Panic, or you're not Lift Panic, DC. I really appreciate it. That's really nice. That's really cool. Lots of people. Didn't expect to get 10, so 400. That's a lot of people. The worst you can do is go behind his back and join. Don't do that. Yes, for sure. Yay, Heather. Woohoo. Oh my God, 400. Congrats. Thank you, Ove. Yeah, that's so awesome. So many people. Yay. Thank you, Lisa. It's always fun to hit these little milestones on live, right? Listening to your spouse over rando huns, love bombing you, putting negative ideas in your mind, and trying to make you go against your spouse. And if my spouse was like adamantly against something that had research to back up their more like negative view on it, I would take that really seriously and I would question whether or not I should be in that environment. She's awfully quiet, nothing to say, not allowed to say. We're only almost 4 minutes in. She's going to have more stuff to say for sure. Yay. Thank you. And I never knew your name was Julie. Thank you, Julie. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So fun. Yeah, 500 won't be like 10 years out for sure. It might be like a shorter time, which is really cool. Like 500, like halfway to 1,000. That's a good number, I think. That's a cool number.
Bit of time and I got a little bit of time, but I didn't get in as much time as you got. Now we've got this competition that's going on. Okay. So that's what you're not wanting to have. You want to make sure that you have your spouse that achieves her goals or his goals, and likewise.
And also, I would add to that, make sure that you guys get together and discuss what your individual goals are, right? If he doesn't know that I have a goal, and let's take yoga, for instance, that I want to be lean and flexible and feel good and just have that strength that comes from going to yoga. If he doesn't understand that and he thinks I'm just going to yoga, with the girls every day of the week, he might not as I'm doing something that's moving me towards a goal that I really want. So just make sure that you communicate with your spouse and that you guys go over what your individual goals are, as well as come up with what your goals are as a couple.
That's reasonable advice, I think, but you don't always need a detailed analysis, right? Like my goal for YouTube is to talk about MLMs and scams. Literally, that's it. Don't really care if I get views. I'm very grateful for anyone who does watch, but I that's not important to me, which is why I've chosen some really random content that might not be that interesting. And also my husband's goal for playing video games is to have fun with his friends. There's not some deep goal, but in the MLM context, you have to explain how you being in your MLM is going to benefit, is going to further your couple goals. And so even if you're not making any money, I interpret that to mean that you say look, we could make this money in the future. We could have more time freedom. We could end up retiring you so you don't have to work. And so that's why you have to support me, because my goal will help us in the future, even if you're not actually making any money, even if you're going into debt, even if you are struggling with your relationships with your spouse or your children, you would still have to say that. I wonder if you have to make up stories as to how it will help you achieve your family goals. Also, I think Aaron's live right now. Yeah, I saw that earlier. So if you want to go jump off and watch Aaron's live, you can catch the rest of this on the replay. Definitely go do that if you want to. We're going to have a party when you hit 500. Woo, yes, that'd be fun. And Monica's down. What if the goal does not involve an MLM, huh? How about them apples? Right? Your content is why I like your channel. It's unique. Thank you. That's so nice. I appreciate that, DC. And I don't like this because they're talking about how, they're saying something reasonable, communicate with your spouse. Yes. You and your spouse have your own goals. Yes. They're saying things that no one is going to disagree. No one's going to disagree with, but then you're applying it to a different kind of environment where potentially your spouse is being harmed, potentially your financial stability as a family is being harmed. And in that case, you should speak up. I wonder if you get special MLM marriage therapy. I'm sure it exists and it's probably expensive. Yeah, and it's going to get even more, as DC says, twisty in a little bit. And I really don't like the direction it goes in. There's no trigger warnings or anything, but I think it's just a really toxic thing that they're going to say. I agree, DC. That rhymes. Agree and DC. Heather's style is unique. Thank you, ladies online. That is super nice of you, and I appreciate you being here. We're actually getting through this relatively quickly. Look at that. Okay, let's keep going.
All righty. So the other thing is that whatever support that your spouse gives you in your network marketing business, just be gracious. Okay? You can't require it, because if you've seen it first, let's say that I saw the business first, and then I get a goal and I start seeing in a vision of how this is going to really get me out of my job and things like that, then it's mine to begin with. It's best if you start early and get your spouse on board and have he look at it at the same time so that you're making the decision together. You're creating the vision together. But if you did it first and then you bring it to your spouse and you are already, let's say that, I don't know, if you had this space like this, right? And so this is the vision, and you are this far down that vision journey, and you're already into the compensation plan, and you're talking to your wife about how incredible this compensation plan is. Well, you left her with the initial part where she's trying to see how she could do it or he could do it. And so you gapped a big portion of your belief cycle going in. And so be aware of that. Really, really be aware of that. So
Why do we need to be careful about the information we're sharing with our spouse and when? I don't really understand. Like, why are there such detailed instructions? Like, if they're not already on board with the vision of your business, then you cannot share compensation plan info with them. You can't share too much info because then they're going to get overwhelmed. And then, as it says up here, it's not going to become their idea. I'm watching my little service, connection thing on my StreamYard, and it's not looking great. I hope you guys are hearing the majority of what I'm saying. I'm sorry if I'm cutting out a little bit. My apologies. But yeah, for spouse to work with you, it must be or become their idea. It will not work otherwise. Any support is great, but don't require it. So for it to become their idea, then as they said earlier, we have to make sure that they see the value in our MLM. Your spouse has to understand that they have to be supportive of you. They have to see the value of your MLM and how it contributes to your life as a couple and your life as a family, and it has to become their idea. So I wonder, how is it becoming their idea, right? This just seems weird to me. If my spouse doesn't like something, like Monica said, you don't have to be in direct collaboration with your spouse over everything. You can have things that are separate. But if my spouse is morally opposed to something that I'm doing, if it's something that's important to me, as I said, I might not say, "Oh, of course, honey," right away. I'll have a conversation, I'll go do my own research, and then we'll make a decision together. I like your style. And when you do that old school MLM, thanks, Natasha. That's so nice. And I am probably going to do some more Amway content coming up soon. It's not necessarily old school content because it's from the mid 2000s, probably. But yeah, I love the Amway content. That's my favorite. More coming on that. No doubt there's an MLM coach for everything. Oh, can hear me. Okay, ladies on Lions can. Okay. Oh, good. So the connection looks sucky, but you can still hear me. That's great. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. If I'm dating someone and they say, "Hey, I saw this opportunity, I want to join an MLM," I would say no and explain why I said no. Great. Yeah. And be like, "Hey, let's do research together. Let's sit down and discuss this together. Let me show you this resource," right? Yeah. You're not just going to be like, "Oh, of course, honey, do whatever you want. I don't care that you're probably going to lose money." No, you're going to express your opinion like you are like you should in a relationship, right? It's probably the income disclosure statement you wouldn't want them to see because they'd realize how little chance there is that you are going to make any money. Those are probably very, very discouraging for the vast majority of people, right? If you're not already a salesperson, if you already don't have a massive ass following, imagine looking at that and seeing that 1% of people in Beachbody actually make a kind of reasonable wage and the rest lose money. Imagine that, right? It's like my parents. My dad is a Star Wars fan and my mom is a Star Trek fan. That's cool. Yeah. And what you said earlier, Monica, about having separate interests, my spouse is very into Star Wars, extremely. I share in that interest. I will watch some of the Star Wars shows on Amazon Prime with him occasionally. If there's a new Star Wars movie that comes out, then I will go and watch it, of course. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I share in the interest, but generally that's his interest and I have my own interest, right? And it's okay. You don't need to be 100,000% invested in your spouse's interests and all of your spouse's activities. Yes. Yeah. It's you read my mind. I didn't even see that comment. It's okay to like different things and still share it. You can call me Julie. I added it so it'd be easier in live chats. Okay, cool. I'll call you Julie. Okay, camera off.
So anything that your spouse supports you on, just be gracious and and don't require it though, right? So anything guide on that one?
No, I think everything you said on that one was great. I just think that, yeah, when you have your spouse and maybe they're not quite supporting you because, like you said, they're not there yet, right? They haven't gone along that journey with you and realizing why you want to do this. But I just always go back to communication and always go back to making sure that you make this known that this is a goal that you have for the family, for your marriage unit, for yourself, and just stay communicating with your spouse. And I think that the journey of bringing up will always be easier when you're open and you're communicating well with each other, because that's what you have done really well throughout the years. Is we just always communicate and we just are able to support each other because we know what each other really wants.
It is the
Did you notice that she said like they don't support you yet because they don't see the value in the opportunity. They don't see how it's going to contribute to your goals as a couple and your goals as a family. And that's really like connected to it's not a no forever. It's just a no right now. And so they're making it seem like if your spouse isn't supporting you, that it's inevitable. It will happen at some point. You just need to convince them. And why do we need our spouse on board our business? Why do we have to convince our spouse to do anything? Like Monica said, why do we need our spouse's support? And they're going to explain different phases. Like your spouse is trying to get you to stop. They are actively working with you, or the middle. Sorry, I kind of did that backwards. Or they're like not overtly supportive, but they're not trying to stop you. And your goal is to get it to eventually get it to the spot where your spouse is actively working your business with you. But why? Why do we need to convince our spouse to do this? If you saw the LuLaRich documentary, you would remember that like they would try to encourage you to get your spouse to quit their job and just rely solely on your LuLaRoe income, because if your spouse is not working, then you have all your eggs in the LuLaRoe basket, and it makes it a lot harder to quit because your spouse isn't employed and you need to feed your children and pay your bills some way. And that could just like lead people to go into even greater debt if their spouse quits their job before they're ready. Something else I was thinking about too, it's kind of related to this, but not. Oh, Julie said something. I need to hop off. I'd like to spend some time with the hubby. Have a great night, everyone. Maybe I'll see you later. Have fun, Julie. Happy Friday night, and hi to your hubby. What was I going to say? A lot of people like will quit their full-time jobs for their MLM when they're at kind of a low rank. And I'm always surprised. I'm like, you're not making enough money to be quitting your job. And then I think, but maybe their spouse is in a high-paying job that maybe they bring in $150,000 a year. So if someone is making $20,000 a year in profit with their Beachbody business, then yeah, they could quit, because technically they could quit their full-time job because theoretically they don't actually need to work if the spouse is making $150,000 a year, The most my BF has ever done for my business was maybe drop off an order at the post office on the way to work. And that's wonderful. Yeah. And maybe later on in your business, if you want your boyfriend to be more involved, you guys will have you'll have like a calm, reasonable conversation about it, right? And then if your boyfriend's like, yeah, I'm not really interested, but I support you and I'm so proud of you, then you're going to be like, yeah, that's great. Thanks, honey. Like, you're not going to try to like move your partner along a spectrum of levels of support. You don't need to convince them, because there's nothing inherently unethical with having a small business and selling your Etsy products. Like, that's a great thing. That's a wonderful thing. And I don't know what my point is. I'm kind of going in circles. Look what happened to David Hollis and his wife. I just found out about him. Very sad. I know that he passed away, unfortunately. I'm not sure what happened to the wife though, but maybe I'll Google that after. That's so scary. Quitting a job that actually pays for the gamble of an MLM, or even like quitting a job where you're making a really like significant, wonderful impact, positive impact in people's lives, and you're actually helping people because it's in your nature to help. And then you are like quitting a job where you are probably going to be putting people into debt and hurting people, you know? Ugh. As DC says, it's twisty.
The key. And so if I let her know, then I'm communicating. If I'm afraid that she might have a reaction, then I'm going to retain it. I'm going to hold it in. And that's where problems begin, right? So she has to be willing to accept communication, and I have to be willing to communicate. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way it's got to be, and it doesn't work any other way. Right? I think it's a train wreck. Okay. So kind of in a different way of thinking of it, there's 3 different categories, all right? So that you might be looking for. Number 1 is, will you work the business with me? Number 2 would be, would you support me? And then number 3 is, are you going to try to stop me? Okay, so those are the 3.
So that static is not on my end. That's on this professional's end. So like, you have to put your spouse through that funnel pretty much. Are you going to work it with me? Are you just going to be supportive, or are you going to actively try to stop me? And like, oh, if you have an actual small business, could you imagine requiring your partner to go through that funnel for them to prove that they're a good partner? I just think that's really twisty. It's twisty to have this plan in your head that first they need to be supportive, and then they need to work with me, and then he has other videos that I might look into about like handling objections. And so I wonder what kind of manipulation he's going to tell us to put onto our spouse if they say, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want you to do this. I want you to stop. Like, how are we going to be convincing our spouse that this pyramid scheme is a good idea? Hey, Hall, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. So nice that you're here. Some people like to work to feel busy or to feel like they're contributing regardless of how much money your spouse brings in. You can be the fun money to go out and have fun. Yeah, totally. I completely agree. And my issue is just like, they make it seem like it's a bit misleading to say like, I quit my job and I'm working full time, when in reality, maybe like you didn't actually need to be working, and maybe you were just like contributing the fun money to the family, which is still great. Like, do whatever you are comfortable doing, do whatever makes you happy, of course. And another thing I've seen, oh, I replaced my full-time income with my Beachbody job, but then they may have worked like several part-time jobs and were making $12,000 a year with their part-time jobs. And theoretically, yes, you did replace your full-time income, but it's not an actual income where you can support yourself and your family. And so it's just very misleading when they leave out very specific details.
Main categories, and we're going to talk about these because this is kind of the whole basis of this conversation. So you want to start off and say anything about these, like which ones are which?
Yes, because just depending on where you're at in your journey, when you start your network marketing business, it might be a situation where your significant other, your spouse, your partner doesn't have any interest in the business, right? But they're not necessarily trying to stop you from doing it. They're just not gung ho. They're like, you do your thing. Yeah, that's cool. You can do this thing that you want. You don't feel like they're really supporting you, but you don't feel like they're stopping you, and they're definitely not at the point where they're going to join you in the business. So I think the first step in getting your spouse is figuring out where you are, right? Is it that your spouse is trying to stop from doing it? Or is it that they're not giving you the support that you feel like you need? Is it that actually join you in the business and they don't have any interest? So definitely figure out where you're at in the journey of getting your spouse on board.
Where are we at in the journey of getting our spouse on board? I always get really frustrated when people are like questioning my feelings, like, hey, I don't want to do that thing. Well, why not? Why not? And I think it's fine to have a conversation and say, like, hey, why are you worried about this MLM? Tell me about it. But I don't like the idea of like, your spouse saying, hey, honey, I'm worried because of this and this. And then you're like, well, that's unreasonable because you need to support me because I'm contributing to our life together as a family. Or, hey, I think like, or like, those are unfounded claims. Look at this person who made all the money, and someone just like constantly pushing back against your very, very real feelings. I do not like having to justify my feelings, having to justify my actions to like a certain extent. I understand like it's good for your spouse, for your friends, for your family to hold you accountable if you're behaving poorly, if you're doing something that's harming you. But I don't like the idea of like justifying why you think something is a pyramid scheme. I don't like that. Does that make sense? I'm kind of going in circles. And oh, it's okay. Yeah, you guys were chatting back and forth about that. Yeah, like I wasn't saying anything because I don't know anything about it other than the fact that's of course very sad that anyone has passed away, of course, and I'm pretty sure that they had children, and it's just a very, very sad thing to happen, and just have like all the sympathy for his family and his children, of course. Yes, it's a class on manipulation. Completely agree. Yes. By support, does that mean the partner staying quiet? Like it means that your partner is not actively trying to stop you. So, like, if your partner's actively trying to stop you, then you need to move them to the stage of my partner's not trying to stop me, but they're not overtly supporting me. They are not wanting to work the business. And then you move from like they're not actively supporting you to they are actively working with you and they're contributing to your business. So the ultimate goal is they are working side by side with you in your MLM business. Yeah. Right? Just go along with it, dear. It's fine. Yeah. And like, are we going to be taught in other videos in this little series of his to pitch our spouse? Like, are we going to be practicing a little speech on our spouse? And what if our spouse doesn't want to? Like, what if our spouse doesn't want to listen to us talk about Beachbody? And it's like, no, honey, I had a hard day. I just want to watch the hockey game. No, you are going to sit there and listen, or else you're not a supportive partner. I don't like it. I don't like it.
And then once you figure that out, you can go from there.
And just communicate, just ask. So where are you with this? What do you think of this? Okay. And when you ask that question, don't get upset if they tell you the truth. All right. Like
you want them to tell you the
You
truth,
want them,
actually,
yeah,
because you
exactly.
don't want to try to handle something that they're not telling you, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they say, well, they give you some fake answer. And so you think that's the reason that they're not into it, but really it's something totally different. And then you can't handle that objection because you don't know what the real objection is. So definitely find out the truth of where they're at with it.
Yeah. So
Don't handle the objections of your spouse. It's not your job to convince your spouse of anything. And I don't like how she said, like, they might give you a fake answer. You should never assume that your spouse is giving you a fake answer for anything. And I really don't like the idea that we're putting that inside of like people's heads that our spouse is going to be dishonest with us. Our spouse is going to bend the truth related to our business. There was something else. What was the other thing? And so if we ask them outright, where are you with this? And they say, I don't want you to do it. What are you going to do next? Are we going to be taught to accept it and move on? Or are we going to be taught to sit there and convince them and pressure them and berate them into just going along with it and like staying quiet or supporting the business? Like, what's our response if they actually tell us the truth? I would hope if our spouse is being straightforward and honest with us, we would respect that, but I highly doubt it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, don't look at the bank account, right? And we've seen the last video, I don't remember who it was, saying they didn't like, don't look at, it doesn't matter if you're not making any money for a month, 6 months, a year. If you eventually become a multi-millionaire in MLM, it doesn't matter if you didn't make money for a year. John Melton said that. And then we've heard Dexter Yeager and Bertie Yeager say for their first full year in Amway, they did not look at how much money they made. I've seen in Zoom calls when they tell stories of how they tell their downline how to gaslight their spouse or to join the MLM, regardless of what your spouse says, to go behind his back. Horrible. It's such a betrayal of your spouse's trust. I hate it. And the partner staying quiet is the one cooking the meals, doing laundry and housework, and doing all the kids' stuff, not necessarily sitting at the table, having a smoke, and thumbing a magazine. And we've heard about Mary Kay trainings where I think it was Kristen something said that if you do not actually have to do that activity, that chore, then delegate it. And so, like what you said, Gary, like maybe the spouse that's staying quiet and ignoring the fact that their like spouse is in a harmful situation, they now have to do more housework, more chores than was previously agreed upon in that relationship because the spouse is more devoted, has more focus on the MLM. It does end in divorce or separation. It's sad that the Hun listened more to a Hun than their own spouse or lover. It's mind-boggling. How do they manage to turn them against each other? Yeah. In the Amway context, we've heard Dexter talk about how anyone who doesn't support you is like a negative dream stealer. They're losers. They're just toxic. They don't want what's best for you. I really truly think that's where like the us versus them hater language started, like literally in like the 70s, the 60s with the Dexter, because we hear that constantly now, like, oh, just ignore the people who question you because they're toxic and they're negative. It's like, no, they just are well educated on the topic and they know that it's very, very unlikely that you're going to actually make any money.
The support me is the greatest thing, right? Like, so as I said before, if they're not trying to stop you, everything is good. All right. That's really it. And so if they just kind of they tune out when you start talking about it, like you're excited about it. Well, you would like to have some, it would be kind of like, I mean, there's not a lot of things that you and I don't do together. And so if I'm talking about my workout, she's totally on board because we work out together. If I'm talking about maybe like I went down and did a long range shooters course or something like that. Okay, so she wasn't there, but she was really excited for me because of that thing we showed you about the goal. All right, so she's excited that I'm achieving my goals because she wants me to win. All right,
so you not being excited about your partner being in an MLM does not mean you don't want them to win, does not mean that you are not supportive and loving and caring. It means that you are actually supportive and loving and caring because you're worried about their mental state, you're worried about things they're missing out on. As me as a spouse, I am like keenly aware of my husband's feelings and what's going on with him internally, right? And if I notice something that was off with him and like I noticed something that was off with him and I didn't say something, that would be me like going against my like my inherent desire as a spouse, right? Because I want to make sure my spouse is happy and comfortable. And so if my MLM, if I felt like I couldn't speak up, if I noticed my spouse was feeling off, then that would really get to me mentally, you know? I wouldn't want my spouse to tune me out when I'm excited about something. You mean like just like normal hobbies or the MLM? I think, yeah, like he's using really basic examples here. Like, of course, if your spouse is excited about a long range gun course, of course you're going to be excited too. Of course you're going to be happy for them, but it's not the same because if you're in a long range gun course and you're happy and excited about it, then that's not hurting the other spouse. That's not hurting the family. And it's so frustrating when he's saying such reasonable, agreeable things like support your spouse, show excitement when they're excited, and comparing it to the MLM. Because then I think this could inadvertently turn spouses against each other. Someone could watch this and say, why aren't you supporting me? You're not being a supportive spouse. You don't understand that I'm just trying to help us financially. If you were a good spouse, if you cared about me, you would support me. And it's just going to turn spouses against each other. Yes, anything, honestly. Yeah, completely. to willingly choose an MLM over my loved one, to even imagine it, it's horrifying to me. Yeah, but that happens like all the time, and it's so sad. Marco's recent, what's that radio show? Building Fortune's radio show reaction, when one of the recent ones, the guest Glenn was talking about how Amway turned his father against him, and because his father heard Dexter Yeager say anyone who doesn't support you is a negative dream stealer, then that really hurt their relationship. And like the upline told Glenn's dad that he was just negative and an asshole, and that's why the dad isn't Diamond, because Glenn's negative. And it's just so sad to me how these companies drive a literal wedge between parents and children. And it's just so sad and so heartbreaking. Or at least don't be obvious, right? But still, I'd rather have them talk to me about it than tune me out. Even if they don't like it, tuning me out, yeah, would be far more hurtful to me. Yeah, like if my spouse was in an MLM, and even if I was worried about it, and they're like, I'm so excited, this, you're right. Like it's still negative and toxic to completely ignore them and just to not respond. I think like the nice thing would be to listen and nod and show that you're engaged, and then like give them a chance to like get their thoughts out. Of course, like don't speak over them. That's also very frustrating for me, but like still make sure you get your opinions out in about the MLM as well. Like weigh your needs to educate your spouse on the MLM with your spouse's needs to have you be a supportive and engaged listener. Let's keep going.
The relationship up like that, or get it to that, then a lot of this stuff breaks away. All right. So if the person is supporting you in any way, all you need, just pick.
Sorry. So if you get to the point where you both have your own interests and it contributes to your couple interests, then everything else will fall away. And so that's insinuating that there's something inherently wrong with your marriage if your spouse is not automatically supportive of you, and if they're trying to stop you in the MLM. It's not like we are trying to think critically about what the information that we're being given. No, it's something that is inherently wrong with our marriage. And I could just imagine sitting there in a Zoom call or watching this training and then suddenly being like, crap, am I in a bad marriage? Is my marriage bad? Just like in LuLaRich, Roberta Blevins was told, maybe you need to get a new husband. If you are bringing in money, you are making a big income with LuLaRoe, and he's still not being supportive.
Picture it as your goal, and then maybe down the line, he or she is going to shift. They're gonna begin to step in just a little bit, right? And so that's the greatest thing. So if you get them not blocking you or trying to stop you, all's good. Then the next part would be working with me, and that is what I've seen is this gradient gain. It's not a straight up, I've now got a business partner. It's just a step, right? And so that was a lot of our journey, mainly because she was being mom, right? And so that was the main thing that was going on. But then once the kids got up and around and rowdy and, running around, going to school and stuff like that, then she had some time. And so then she began to work her way into it. And we're going to walk through that over the next couple of series.
And it is important to understand that it can be a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. It can be baby steps towards the ultimate goal of whatever it is that you're wanting your spouse, how you want them to be on board with your business. It was definitely a journey for us. And it started out with me totally supporting Tim. And as we'll share with you over the next couple of videos, you'll see the journey that progressed into us fully working together and being completely on board, and kind of how we did that and how we navigated all of the different things that happen when you're trying to get somebody else to do what you want to do, right?
Yeah. So there's a lot.
I will never get my spouse to do something. I think, as DC says, that is so twisty, that you are being given tools and advice to get your spouse to do something that you want to do. I understand sometimes, oftentimes, as a spouse, you do things for the well-being of your spouse that you're not really excited about. Like, say your spouse is in school and they have a big exam, maybe you stay up till midnight helping your spouse study the night before when you'd rather be in bed. Maybe like you need to drive your spouse to the airport when you don't really feel like it. You have to wake up early in the morning to bring them there. And those are just things that you do because you're a supportive spouse. But there are things that you shouldn't have to compromise on. Like, if you think that if you're worried that your spouse is in a pyramid scheme and they're going to be harmed, you don't have to compromise on that opinion. You don't have to just like swallow your pride and completely ignore your gut instincts. And the idea of getting your spouse to do something is the same kind of like predatory language we hear, like, oh, I got this new person to be a member of my team. I got new blood. I don't like the idea of us getting humans to join our downline, or in this case, to like contribute to my MLM business. I don't like it. Like, I don't know if I'm expressing my point properly. Hi, Anastasia. Thank you for being here. It's a very cringy, very, very cringy and culty. Agreed, Monica. Agreed.
Last thing I want to about is, this one's a tough one because it is when you have a spouse that wants to block you. Okay, so in a later series, I'm going to talk about objection handling and how do you help a person over hurdles or bugs or anything, that however you want to view an objection. But sometimes, like I remember I had a girlfriend and she told me, she says, I've just like really started liking you, and do you really think you need to ride a motorcycle? Because like you could get killed at any moment, and well, the stuff that I was doing, defusing bombs and jumping out of airplanes and all that kind of stuff, right? I was always in danger's way, if you will. And but riding motorcycles was kind of a way I unwind, even if it's at 120 miles an hour. That's how I unwind. And so she began to, for my own good, convince me that I didn't need a motorcycle. And then something else, and then something else. And pretty soon, all of my identity of the things that I love to do had been stripped. And so later, obviously that didn't work out. And so later I realized that there's this sometimes a sneaky approach that a person is coming in and saying for your own good and for your own good. But actually they're trying to control what you do. And so
now if our spouse doesn't agree with us, then we're told to question their intentions, question whether they actually want what's best for us, and think that they are trying to be controlling, they're trying to be sneaky, they want our identity to be completely eliminated, which is why we don't want them in the MLM. So now we're not only trying to get our spouse, we're not only trying to move them through this funnel so they eventually work with us, we're also now questioning their intentions, like questioning whether or not they truly care for us. And I just think it's so sad to like take what is, assuming you're in a healthy, equal relationship, taking what is true concern, true worry, love that your spouse has for you, and twisting it around into something that is really negative, that is potentially abusive. If your spouse is being really controlling over you, depending on the extent, that could lead to abusive behaviors in the future. And this is like Dexter Yeager's "Don't Listen to the Negative Dream Stealers" being played out in modern times. DC still here. It's twisty. It's twisty as fuck. Especially if the spouse has concrete proof, especially if they have research, especially if they have knowledge, especially if there's videos. And they, like, if I were to go to my spouse and be like, hey, honey, I'm worried you're in this MLM. I have my own channel on it. I know a reasonable amount on it for an average person. I would hope that my spouse would take my knowledge seriously. But no, even if I'm well educated on the topic and I can give proof, they're taught to think that my intentions aren't pure with my spouse and that they're just like trying to control me and eliminate their identity, right? It's horrible. Yeah, block you. You mean to tell you reality? He's comparing oranges with apples. Yes, I completely agree. Completely. What the fuck, Hall says. He is twisting her concerns. Yes. And like with the motorcycle thing, like if your partner is really scared for you being riding that fast on a motorcycle, I don't think one should completely like stop riding the motorcycle, but maybe could you meet them halfway? Maybe could you validate their concerns? Say, I understand you, honey. I'm sorry that you're worried for me. I promise I will drive slower. I promise instead of going 120 miles an hour, I will instead go 80 miles an hour, which is still fast, but it's less dangerous. Can't we meet our partner in the middle, Tim? Can we? Yeah, this is fucked up. Holy shit. I completely agree with you. I agree. I don't like it. No.
So that's a hard time yourself constantly kind of like just side you just kind of merges over and you're forced to back up, right? That kind of stuff happens and it begins to be control. And so it's in my experience, it's far better for you to hold your ground because this is your life and you have things you want and and what that has to do also is that you have to allow that person. So as long as her goal isn't conflicting with us and me, then I'm all for it. And so that's the way we kind of created our relationship to be, this is where we're heading, right? As us and what she wants to achieve on her own and what I want to achieve on my own. And they were very in alignment, right? So I just want to challenge you on that. You have anything to add on this?
Yes, I think that a lot of times what's happening when the person is not supporting you and they're trying to stop you, like in the example of the motorcycle, sometimes what's happening there is it's the person's own fear, right? And they're projecting that on you. Maybe they're afraid to fail. And so they're putting that on you, or they're scared of, riding a motorcycle. So they're going to put that on you. And it's not impossible to handle that situation. You just have to show them how what you're doing is how is it going to help them? How is what you're doing going to assist them in maybe their goals, And so I think a lot of
So he wants us to stand our ground, and I wonder if there's any validation of our spouse's feelings in this case, because I feel like for me personally, if my spouse says something to me, even if I don't fully understand it, my first instinct is to validate what he said, validate his feelings, and then we can go in and discuss it. So if someone is scared that you're in an MLM, you're just saying, well, no, I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to do it anyways. Is that what you're teaching, Tim? Or are you teaching, like you're saying to communicate, right? You're saying like success as a couple is based on communication, which everyone would agree with. So are you saying you want to communicate with your spouse to understand what they're going through, understand their feelings, or are you just simply standing your ground? I wonder which one, Tim. And also if our spouse is, as I say, blocking us, it's not because they are worried for our well-being. It's because they have some kind of unreasonable fear. It's based in their own insecurity. It's based in their own internal issues, and it's not our fault. And so for us to overcome that objection, we just need to show them the value. Instead of validating and communicating openly and discussing their feelings, we just need to stand our ground and show them the value. Here, let me translate what they're saying. If your spouse doesn't support you, they are haters and are blocking you from succeeding. If they don't join you, leave them. Oh, I hate it so much. I hate the idea of them planting doubts in people's heads about the intentions of their spouse. I hate it. Leave and block all the haters. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. So I'm going to let it play for the next minute and 18 seconds, and then we'll be done.
times when that's happening, when the the trying to stop or trying to cut down or trying to keep you or control you, as you called it, a lot of times that's coming from a place of fear. And if you can just talk to that person and maybe show them how what you're doing in your business isn't a scary thing, then they're going to become more accepting of you and stop trying to stop you so much. Again, it just comes back to communication. And throughout the next couple of videos, we're going to give you some different ways and tips and ideas on how to get through all of that.
I love her so much. Like, see how sane she is? All right. So you tell us your thoughts on this, right? So has this ever happened to you? What's been your experience in trying to assist maybe your spouse or significant other, or with your teams? Has there been an upset and things like that? And how did you handle it? And how did that work out? And things like that. And so also, please like, share, and comment. And if you haven't already subscribed, thank you.
So that's all I have for today. Camera back on. Yeah, so if our spouse is worried about us, they are trying to block us, they are trying to control us, they are insecure, what else? They don't fully understand the value of what you're doing. They're just controlling, they're insecure, and it's our job to move them along the funnel of eventually actively working beside us in our MLM. If we have to convince our spouse that something is safe, that we should be doing something, then I feel like that is an issue. And perhaps that should be a red flag. Perhaps. See how sane she is. What? Right? Right? It's so strange. The sad part is when you wake up and realize you block and ostracize the real people that really loved you. Yeah. You're going to have to deal with the consequences. Some relationships might be fixed or may not be fixed. Yes. I agree, because if you're constantly questioning your spouse's sincerity of their concern for you and like calling them controlling, thinking that they don't want what's best for you, I could imagine that really like hurting a relationship for the long term. So sad. So sad. I hate it. Fear of losing the house, never seeing you because you're always working your business, putting you into more debt, totally unreasonable. I hate it. Yeah, you're right. So really real fears that could have real repercussions on your quality of life, but like you're taught to gaslight your spouse to think like, no, these aren't real reasonable fears. It's you being controlling, it's you not caring about me, it's you not seeing the contribution that I'm trying to make to our family. Wow, that was really interesting. They feel like they're trying to isolate you from your unsupporting spouse. Yes, completely, Sherry, completely. Did he brainwash his wife? I don't know. Maybe. Sorry, my hair looks crazy. Oh, maybe he did. I always wonder like the process of being like an MLM spouse and what they actually think about the business and how much fear and uncertainty are they just like hiding, right? I don't know. Yeah, that's all I have for today. What do you guys think? Did you like the video? I hope you did. It was really fun hanging out and chatting. Really fun seeing 9 people in the chat. How cool is that? And I'm going to do more Amway content shortly. It's not any like super, super old content, but it's an Amway topic that I haven't talked about before. And so that will be really fun. And oh yeah, thank you for over 400 subscribers. That is really cool. And I'm 100 watch hours away from the 4,000 watch hours, which is cool, even though it's taken a long time. But like the first like 6 months or like 4 months, I was getting like 20 watch hours a month, and then it like picked up, and I'm getting lots of watch hours now, which is cool. So yeah, I'm like 100 hours away from that milestone, which is pretty cool. Pretty exciting. Bye, Sherry. Have a good weekend. We're almost done. We're getting close. Can't wait for the next one. Thanks, Monica. You too, Ove. Night, night. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. More Amway. Yes, lots of Amway. I always want to do Amway. Oh, thank you, Ove. Yeah, I thought that was cool. I don't really pay attention to my watch hours anymore. I haven't for a while. And then I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm getting close. Thanks, Hall. Bye, Lisa. See you next time. So I'll see you guys at some point on Sunday, probably for an Amway stream, but I'm not exactly sure what I want to do yet. But thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Bye.